Well, hello. A warm welcome to everyone joining us today. Great to see so many of you connecting and participating in this discussion on the Nordic approach to European Green Deal and the green transition in Latvia. My name is Edijs Bošs. I'm going to be your moderator today. Due to the pandemic, unfortunately, we're not physically together. But if we were physically together, you'd see that this event has brought together a very large and diverse group of people. We have here representatives from Nordic companies working in Latvia, Nordic investors, also representatives from Latvia's state and municipal institutions, and also a large group of local entrepreneurs who are operating in Nordic markets. And we are all keen to learn more about the green transition. The business environment and the social environment in our region and in Europe is changing with respect to this green transition. It will affect each and every one of us, irrespective of the industry we work in. And the time to chart our path into that future is now, especially as we also wish to recover as soon as possible from the pandemic. If you look at the agenda for today, you'll see that the organizers have put together a very, very impressive list of speakers and of case studies. And I believe this is going to be a tremendous learning experience. And therefore, I'd like to thank the 4 Nordic Chambers of Commerce in Latvia, as well as the Nordic Council of Ministers office in Latvia and the Nordic embassies in Latvia for putting this together. The organizers also want to thank companies Swedbank, Visma, Vastint for seeing the value in this topic and for helping to make this possible. Well, it looks like this is going to be a forum of believers, of people who see that the change is actually coming and who want to be a part of it and who want to get things done and who are willing to embrace the new green rules of international business. By the way, upon registration, we surveyed the participants and nearly half of you say that your organizations are already actively implementing some sustainability action plan towards the green transition. The other half of you said that you are either beginning to plan that or it doesn't yet apply to you. Interestingly enough, on multiple occasions, people who are representing the same organization sort of gave the opposite answers. Either they're far along the way in that transition or it doesn't apply to them. So all of that suggests, I suppose, is that there's still a lot to learn about this, and that's precisely what we're going to do today. Let me now give the floor to Stefan Eriksson. He is the director of the Nordic Council of Ministers office in Latvia.
Labdien, Ministru President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It makes me very glad that we have gathered so many participants at today's forum, which will discuss Nordic ideas and approaches to the European Green Deal. And it's an honor for me to address you with some short introductory words. In these days of uncertainty, when we often have to deal with issues outside of our control, it's indeed pleasant to be able to discuss important long-term issues, the green transition and its implications for Nordic and Baltic businesses in Latvia and the Baltic Sea region. Nordic cooperation has a long history, and by pure coincidence, it so happens that yesterday, on March 23rd, we celebrated the Nordens Dag, or the Day of the Nordic Countries. On this day, in 1962, the first version of the Helsinki Treaty was signed, which laid the foundation for today's Nordic cooperation. This year is special for us because 50 years ago, in 1971, the treaty was amended and led to the creation of the Nordic Council of Ministers, an intergovernmental institution with the task to promote Nordic cooperation. 20 years later, in 1991, after the re-establishment of Baltic independence, the Nordic countries opened offices in the Baltic countries. So this year, we are also celebrating 30 years of Nordic presence in the Baltic countries. It would be wrong for me not to admit that there have been problems or challenges that sometimes we Swedes like to say when we want to avoid the word problems within Nordic cooperation lately due to the pandemic. Open borders and free movement have always been at the core of Nordic cooperation, and to some people it has been disappointing to see how fast it was possible to build our borders and barriers again. Still, I believe this is temporary, and that we will return to normality not only in Nordic cooperation but also in Nordic-Baltic, EU and international cooperation in general. I would say that the preparation for this forum, which takes place thanks to the Nordic Chambers of Commerce and the Nordic embassies in Latvia, gives proof that Nordic cooperation has a bright future. My sincere thanks to the organizers and sponsors of the forum. In 2019, the Nordic countries took a bold decision on the so-called Nordic Vision 2030, which sets the goal to make the Nordic region the most sustainable and integrated region in the world. The vision is built on 3 pillars, one of which is a green Nordic region, which in practice means a commitment to work together to promote a green transition of our societies and work towards carbon neutrality and a sustainable, circular and bio-based economy. Among these ambitious goals is a commitment to contribute to a positive development of international cooperation on environmental and climate issues. This is one of the reasons behind our engagement in today's event. Our ambition is to bring the Nordic approach to green transition a bit closer to the Baltics and to encourage closer cooperation and integration in the Nordic-Baltic region. I'm convinced that we can achieve better results if we work together, and showcases and examples from our region can also serve as inspiration in a wider European context. We are already running Nordic-Baltic projects in research on sustainable energy, in waste management, in future food systems, as well as in other areas related to a green transition. I do hope that this forum will inspire us all to further deepen Nordic-Baltic cooperation, not least between Nordic and Baltic businesses, in order to make a green transition possible. I wish you all an interesting afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Eriksson, and thanks very much once again for putting together this very timely event. Now, just a few words on how we will be working today. We need to be done by 3:30, and we will have a long lineup of speakers, so it's going to be rather packed. Many of you have been active already in submitting questions, but nonetheless, everyone is encouraged to participate via Slido. You can see the QR code on your screen, I suppose, right now, and scan that and you'll be taken directly to our event page, or you can log on to Slido by entering the code on their website. Please note that you will be kindly asked to identify yourself as you log on our Slido page. So you may want to begin exploring that, and meanwhile we can listen to the Prime Minister of Latvia, Kariņš, who has on what he has to say about our national priorities and our national action plan in launching the Green Deal in Latvia.
Greetings from Riga, one of the gems on the Baltic Sea. Today's topic is the Nordic approach to the European Green Deal and paving the road towards economic recovery and sustainable growth. That's really a lot of words. I'll try to put it the way that I see it. Right now, all of us are facing a tremendous crisis, one that seems to come along every 10 years. This time, it's a pandemic, one that none of us has experienced in our lifetimes, one that we've read about, the Spanish flu from about 100 years ago. The pandemic has created all kinds of challenges for all of us, including a huge economic challenge. So as people have to avoid contacts and trade is suppressed, the economy suffers. It's a great challenge, but it's also a fantastic opportunity, as any crisis in the end turns out to be. The question is, how do we come out of this crisis in a stronger and better position than all of us were before going in? And I think the answer is already in all of our pockets. it's through increased investments in those kinds of activities that will bring us more returns in the future. It's generally referred to as green growth. Now, we know around the Baltic Sea, not all of us have similar energy mixes. Not all of us have the same approach to sustainable development. Many of us are very high in renewables. Some around the Baltic Sea are still very fossil fuel dependent. And in the fossil fuel dependent countries, often politicians are not so enthusiastic about green growth because they see it as a killing part of their economy. They don't see it as an opportunity. But I think this is what fully unites the Nordics and the Baltics, that all of us understand full well that this is an opportunity for growth. Industry needs certainty. That's something that all of us learned probably when we were 15, 16, 17, 18, some of us earlier, some of us a little later. But certainty is what industry needs. The European green environmental policy is a framework of certainty for our business. If business knows that there's a 450 million European market for solutions in green technologies, business will invest in that. And it's that certainty, which I also as a politician have worked towards creating, as an understanding that it underpins business growth and economic growth. It does not undermine business and economic growth. It underpins it, makes it stronger. My country, for 50 of the past 100 years, was occupied. We were taken outside of the loop of regular market economy development. 30 years ago, we came back in with many a challenge, I have to say. I think as many close observers are well aware. But the distance that we have come, in my view, is incredible. We have not only rejoined our place in Europe, but we have fully rejoined our place also in the Nordics and the Baltics. We offer a tremendous opportunity for companies to expand their opportunities and possibilities. To put it simply, Latvia is a little bit like the small cutter that's cruising next to the big tanker. The big tanker has its advantages. The really big companies, the huge multinationals, they have momentum, they have a customer base, they have an innovation base, they have lots of built up knowledge. But the difficulty with tankers is that sometimes when you really need to make a quick move, it's a little difficult because the ship is so large. What we offer companies and investors is the opportunity to be more nimble, to use the accrued knowledge that we have in our country to try new things. Culturally speaking, just imagine for 50 years, the government, an oppressive government, denies you free speech, denies you teaching of history, and denies you regular market access to good, finished, quality products, whether it's an automobile, whether it's a bicycle, whether it's a clothes washing machine, anything. Which means if you want these comforts, you actually have to figure out how to make it work yourself. If you happen to be lucky enough to get a car and a part breaks down, you have to be clever enough to understand how you're going to retool it, or have a friend of yours who works in some factory retool the part for you, simply because there is no automotive used parts store. This was non-existent. So we are a hardened country of innovators who've gone through the school of having nothing at your disposal ready-made. Now it's the same hardened group of innovators who are part of the world where actually everything is available. And the result is not very surprising. As the huge old clumsy Soviet industry fell apart, in its place we have a new, very vibrant industry, which is not usually very huge in terms of number of people, but in terms of the kind of products and services that are being created and offered is actually quite astounding for such a relatively small country with just under 2 million people. So in fiber optics, world-class, top-of-the-line, developing new and better products all the time, which is an offshoot of an old Soviet-era glass factory. We have a company that deals with radiation detection, selling world-class products, competing head-to-head with one of the largest, which is in the US, coming up with innovative new products, which is an offshoot of an old Soviet-era institute affiliated with a university. The story it goes on and on and on, sort of out of the rust of the Soviet era. The various phoenixes really have arisen, and this is how I think that we, as one of the Nordic and Baltic countries, how we fit in as a very good partner is one. The thinking and the ideology is basically the same, very free market oriented, very open. At the same time, having gone through such a long period of being forced to create and innovate because of adverse conditions, actually makes us in this new environment a very exciting place to be. So to sum up, green growth, it is a way to enable business and economic development. In our country, we fully embrace this. In the Nordics, this has been, of course, fully embraced, and it's this synergy working together. And I really would invite anyone attending this conference who has not been to our country lately in the past 10, 15 years. Okay, it's still the COVID pandemic, and now is maybe not the best time for travel, but this will pass. We're all in the process of vaccination. All of us will move through this, and we will pull through this. No questions remain. This is one of the places to be. I invite you to come take a little closer look. I think you'll be quite happy with what you see, and quite happy with the possibilities that we have to make our common Baltic Sea cooperation even stronger. All the best to everyone today.
Well, thank you very much, Prime Minister. I think quite aptly positioned Latvia in all of this conversation on the green transition in the Nordic-Baltic region. Now, obviously, Nordics-Baltics is part of the European Union, which is providing the overall framework for these transformations, and therefore I'm happy to say that Normunds Popens has been able to join us. Normunds, are you there? Are you hearing me? Am I hearing you?
Yes, good morning. Yes, I hear you very well.
All right.
I hope you can hear me as well.
I'm hearing you well. I hope the audience does as well. So Normunds Popens is Deputy Director-General at the European Commission's Directorate-General for Regional and Urban Policy. So Normunds is going to talk to us for approximately 10 minutes, and I'm actually challenging you, sir, to sort of explain this in 10 minutes. It is going to be a challenge because the topic is so large and nuanced if you get into the details. But nevertheless, we're happy that you found the time to join us today. So, the European Green Deal and its impact on regional development. Normunds, 10 minutes to you, please.
Thank you, Edis, and I will try, because as you say, the topic is so large and so important that, of course, covering that in 10 minutes is a real challenge. Now, I come from DG Regio, DG for Regional and Urban Policy, and I'm very happy to speak in this event because it's also we see it as part of this idea to enhance cooperation even within the European Union. It's never enough cooperation. And if we want to achieve those beautiful goals that we all have set up at the EU level, we need to work together. And Nordic-Baltic region is, to me, one of the ones which can lead in that context and be an example. So a few words about the Green Deal, and also because I am in charge of implementing the programs all over in Europe from cohesion policy, I will try to link it to the funding instruments of the future, because obviously we have a period again where we are setting up a new programming period with concrete programs everywhere in Europe. And we have also as well new instruments proposed through the Next Generation EU. So I would like to touch on this very briefly. So shortly, the European Green Deal, I will not dwell too much because I think everybody has been aware that it is our new growth strategy. It is our strategy how to make sure that our development takes place, but it is sustainable. It doesn't damage the boundaries of our planetary system. It allows us to actually be a win-win situation, both for economic development and growth, which we of course need, and also for maintaining this environment, this planet in which we live as a total. And for that, of course, it's easy to say and difficult, I think, to do something concrete, although I think the European Union is very well set, again, to be an example in the world how it can be done. So the European Green Deal obviously covers all sectors of our activities, the economy, the transport, energy, agriculture. It also covers, I think, a lot our consumers' part and the choices that we make, because for me, it's not just a new priority for European Union. It should be the paradigm change for all of us, the way that we make our choices, be it politicians, businesses, or us as consumers. It's important that I understand the importance of this paradigm change. Everything points out to the fact that we have certain problems with the environment and climate, and they are becoming even more serious. So we should take this European Green Deal and embrace it. And of course, from the Commission point of view, there's a lot of work that need to be done at the EU level. First of all, we need to make sure that we have respective legal frameworks amended. So our directives, our regulations need to take into account these new objectives. And we need together to design a system where the support and investment, first of all, but not just investment, as well as knowledge and sharing of this knowledge at the EU level really takes place and allows everyone to reach those objectives. Because let's be clear, to achieve those objectives at the EU level, we need all levels of governance as well working together. So it's not just about EU and national governments, it is about national, regional, local actors and all stakeholders, be it businesses, academic institutions, NGOs, our society needs to work together to achieve these objectives. And we have to put these systems in place at the EU level through our programs and different other support instruments. So not just legislation, but as well all the support system. And as you know very well, for the actually we understand as well that the level of different territories or different actors in those territories is very different at the EU. So this is why we have also very clearly said that this just transition mechanism should be also one of the key mechanisms which allows to make sure that no region and nobody is left behind. Because I think that should be understood that some of our regions, some of our industries, some of our territories and citizens living in those territories should undergo more profound changes than others. So we need to make sure that this differentiation and targeted support to these territories, but through territory, I of course mean everybody who lives, works and does business on this territory, that we have right systems in place to help them to reach those who maybe are more advanced in that respect. So if I look at the cohesion policy particularly, I think we will be playing a key role also at the EU level to make sure that in the next 7 years, our EU budget is really targeted towards supporting the Green Deal, these objectives, this green and digital transition, as we call it as well, that our programs, financial programs, investment programs all over Europe take it as a priority. And for that, I think we've done a big job. We have already set the thematic concentration for our investment programs. So 30% must go to supporting the policy objectives. number 2, which is our green objective, which supports different measures related to climate adaptation, to environment, and so on and so forth. And we will be discussing it with member states to finalize it in very concrete programs, in setting them up. But it's not enough, because we also understand that our programs will set the targets, will set the amounts and key principles. We need to come up with good examples how we should make this investment happening. And there are different important initiatives coming from the EU level, I think, which are worth looking at. In the Nordic and Baltic, like to mention the renovation wave, for example, for more energy efficiency in our help, or we need to help of economy. For that, we are looking at different initiatives also for cities to make sure that they also have some examples, some ideas on how it can be done in practice. So the European Green Deal, and particularly I think our policy, shows very well that it's not just investment and legislation and regulation. There is a need for this transformative change. So we need to mainstream this idea of sustainability everywhere, across the multiple sectors. And this, of course, is very difficult task, but we have to do it. We need to make sure that also this principle that do no significant harm, when you do investment which has impact on our environment, that this do no significant harm principle is there, and it is our guiding light when we make choices for our future investments. I think cohesion policy has been relatively straightforward. We have, for example, exclusion in future to fund anything related to fossil fuels, but again, we need to see together through also the development further of our green taxonomy, of defining which investment is green, which is not, very precisely. I think it's through different strands of this work, we should arrive at a common understanding whether we make the right choices for our investment priorities. So again, I want to stress that this is something where the Commission sees a very close partnership between us, between the national governments and local, regional governments and different stakeholders should take place. And for that, we have designed, I think, adequate instruments. So for cohesion policy, as I said, we are currently we hope that our regulations will be published very soon. So we will be completing our informal dialogue with negotiations with everyone in Europe. And we hope that these programs will then very concretely give necessary funding for innovation, for different Green Deal investments, but also concretely to supporting regions, supporting cities, as well as very seriously supporting social inclusion and all that related aspects. Just a few words about other instruments, because you must know that there are also new instruments which we are proposing. So first of all, there are instruments that are supposed that will help us to recover from the crisis and get back to the sustainable growth path. There's a link to Next Generation EU, and there we have REACT-EU instrument, for example, which we are programming as we speak, because we are receiving the first modifications for current cohesion policy programs. And there I'm very grateful that, for example, in Latvia, we see that around 30% of this funding will also not just help our health sector or wage schemes or working capital in small and medium-sized enterprises, that it will also contribute to this green and digital transition. That was our request to look, and I very much subscribe to what the Prime Minister of Latvia said. The crisis should be seen as well as an opportunity. So whatever we learn from the crisis and whatever is our future actions should be forward-looking. And this is why this support to green and digital, even in spite of the crisis, we see it as a win-win situation. Now, we also have set up a recovery and resilience facility on which the negotiations will start in the next months. They have been informally going on. And there as well is our wish to have more than 30% of that very important funding going to green and digital transition. Again, the reforms should be linked to investment, and we should have very concrete milestones defined under the RRF, and also as well as complementarity with other funding instruments such as cohesion policy. But I think that's a task that is very important and need to be done. On top, we are also working with different partners on setting up a just transition mechanism. And I mentioned it in the beginning, but one of the important elements of it is just transition fund. And just transition fund will be targeting these territories which have to undergo this extremely deep transition. And there we see that this fund is not about really cleaning up the mess left by heavy industries or, having funding some solutions for energy transition. For that, we have other instruments. We see the Just Transition Fund as a fund which should contribute to defining new opportunities for these territories, diversify their economies, funding innovation-based solutions, new workplaces, reskilling and upskilling the workers who currently are employed, for example, by coal mines or some other industries which are polluting heavily. We can also help those industries, if that is a possibility, to have this technological shift to the less carbon emitting technologies. But that is something that we need to discuss together, because the JTF, I think, is one of the most visible instruments that will help also from the EU level to reach those climate goals. I don't know if I have reached already my 10 minutes. I could speak a lot more. So just to conclude, to say that we will be covering, of course, with our instruments, all the Nordic-Baltic region, all the EU, but it's not enough. The needs to reach the climate objectives are huge. And as I said, it needs the joint work of different actors. So I hope as well that in the Nordic-Baltic area, the private investment will also help and will be mobilized to help to reach these goals. And I really look at the Nordic and Baltic region as a leading region in that concept. We will have a lot of, as well, transnational and cooperation programs in this region running. So I would really encourage everyone to make sure that all these instruments work together and help us to achieve these goals. And it should not really be just an exercise because the EU says so. I think as citizens, we are interested in the green, in the future for our children. And this is something that we should always remember. So thank you for listening to me, and we will be ready, and we stand ready, of course, to work with you in getting all this right. Thank you.
Normunds, thank you very much for this summing up of the entire idea. There's a bunch of questions, by the way, coming in through Slido. We don't have the time for all of them. By the way, thank you very much to our audience for the activity level you're showing initially. And it's a pity that we don't have the time to cover all of them. We will try and find other mechanisms through which to deliver those answers to those questions. However, there is one, I think, follow-up question to what we heard from you, Normunds, that I'm trying to sum up a couple of questions that were here on Slido and a couple of sort of notions that came in beforehand as well. And I think it boils down to this, is that I think the perception still lingers among many here in Latvia that the green transition sort of will those who will really catch this train are going to be the more developed parts of Europe and of the region, right? And that those who are underdeveloped will be hard-pressed, really. That would be another factor that will make them hard-pressed to catch up with others regionally, right? So the question boils down, how do you sort of, what is your answer to that concern? That those who are advanced and those who are richer are going to benefit more from this than those who are sort of lagging behind for historical, economic, whatever reasons that may be? And precisely sort of on your turf, will the European Commission be tracking how the Green Deal implementation leads to sort of more cohesion in Europe rather than less cohesion? Normunds, if you can cover that in 2 minutes, that'd be great.
Well, it's impossible to cover it in 2 minutes, but it is an eternal question, obviously, when we dispatch also support at the EU level on the priorities, what happens at the regional level. And we see that also our support, because cohesion policy funds are exactly supposed to do that, to help us to reduce regional disparities. Well, unfortunately, we can see that with all that funding. And our funding is directed more at less developed regions. It will stay that way, you know, in the new MFF, new multi-annual financial framework. There will be more funding from our policy, from our funds going to less developed regions. There's no doubt about it. But the question really is how to make sure that these regions get on the right development path. For me, sometimes it's not about really doing and repeating the same what has been done in other regions. It is about learning and then defining your own path to that development and reaching the necessary welfare level. We have many instruments in place which we have, introduced, and as I said, the Just Transition Fund as well will help mostly those regions who are hardest hit by this necessity to make this transition. So I think the EU will concretely help different regions. We will also look in our programs, of course, to make sure that the funding also for the Green Deal objectives is reaching the right regions. And obviously, we will keep as well setting up and supporting different levels of cooperation between different regions. For Just Transition Fund, we have introduced the Just Transition platform when we bring together all different regions. We are introducing a new interregional cooperation instrument for innovation in future as well. And we will be looking as well, particularly at the cooperation level within different countries and regions to make sure that this cooperation also between different types of areas under the functional territory principle, so city cooperating with a rural area behind it. We should also stop making these contradictions. We must make sure that these areas, different areas work together even on a sub-regional level. So yes, we look at different levels. I think that also the macro-regional strategies and our European territorial cooperations can play an important role in bridging these different gaps. And there again, Nordic-Baltic region is very well placed with the Baltic Sea strategy, with big transnational and cross-border programs, which should help in this respect.
Normunds, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Once again, the
Thank
topic
you for inviting me.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you very much. And once again, the topic is broad and detailed, and a bunch of questions just cannot be addressed in the framework of this conference. But nevertheless, an important topic, and thanks for helping to lay it out for us. Well, we're now heading towards the part of our forum today when we hear 5 case studies from the Nordic-Baltic region, from the Nordics primarily, on that could serve as an example, as an inspiration of maybe something to copy, just something to think about. And once again, thank you very much to the organizers for bringing those companies and those case studies together for your attention today. And let me introduce 2 individuals who are going to help me in the analysis and sort of trying to figure out what we can take from this and how can we analyze from the Latvian perspective these case studies. I'd like to introduce Mārtiņš Zemītis to you and Adriāna Kauliņa. Mārtiņš represents the European Commission. He's an economist there. Hello, Mārtiņš. The fact that you waved at me probably means that you can hear me. Let's test whether we can hear you. Mārtiņš, is your...
Yes.
All right, you're there.
Good
That's great. Thank you very much. And Adrian is from Swedbank. She's an economist there, and she works also precisely on those questions. So 2 individuals, 2 economists who are in touch with the business community here, and Adrian and Martin are going to help me and help us to put those case studies that we're going to hear in a larger context, right? So, Martin and Adrian are standing by, and we're now connecting to Salla Ahonen. Salla, are you there? Salla represents Neste, and she is going to talk to us about Neste's transformation for a sustainable future. So, Salla, I hope you can hear us and we can hear you, and the floor is yours for 10 minutes. And then just a couple of questions from our audience. I encourage once again our audience is to send in the questions and vote on the questions to our speakers. And I'm not sure we're going to have time to cover many questions, but maybe one, the most popular question from the audience. All right, Salla, the floor is yours. 10 minutes, please.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I hope we can also set up the slides that I prepared for this event. I'm actually really quite inspired by what I've already heard today. I absolutely think that the Nordics and the Baltics can lead in many sustainability related issues. So I'm really happy to be here. Also talking a little bit about Neste's transformation and also maybe why we've embarked on this transformation. So those of you who know Neste, you probably think of an oil company, but I just like to highlight that today Neste is so much more. And last year, 2020, actually 94% of Neste's operating profit came from the renewable businesses. And also here, it's just not about the renewable road transportation, but increasingly also about renewable aviation, as well as the renewable polymers and chemicals. And this, for me at least, is very, very exciting. So the story of Neste started in 1948. And the purpose of the company at that point was to secure Finland's oil supply. And this is a very important role, obviously, for a company. But today that sounds slightly maybe unexciting. So actually already for many, many years, Neste has been really investing into R&D and innovation. You wouldn't expect from a company like Neste, but 25% of our people are working with R&D, innovation and engineering. And this has been the case for a long time already. And already in 1996, actually, very clever women filed a patent how to make diesel out of renewables. And the world was not ready for that kind of innovation at that point. So that was put aside and left waiting for a few years. Then in the mid of 2000s, if you remember, there was this previous big discussion on climate. If you remember, there was this big meeting on climate in Copenhagen, and everybody was expecting big changes, but that didn't amount to anything much at that point. However, that amounted into something really big within Neste. So Neste embarked on a big transformation and decided actually to start investing into these renewable diesel refineries. And this was something that was decided when nobody was asking for it. Nobody knew about this product. There was no market demand. There was no legislation, nothing to support it. So started to build refineries in Finland, but also in Rotterdam and in Singapore. And then now, as I said, 94% of the profit come from that decision taken quite some time ago already. This is not the end of the transformation for Neste. So we're now also looking at moving towards renewable polymers and chemicals. We have made a commitment to recycle 1 million ton of waste plastics per year, starting 2030. We are moving towards becoming carbon neutral in our production by 2035, and we're providing solutions to help our customers reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 20 million tons annually by 2030. So this is something that desperately is needed, and it definitely still continues. And the transformation is maybe most pointedly seen in our purpose today, creating a healthier planet for our children. And this is something that is a far cry from this, securing Finland's oil supply, but this is also something that every single employee, I think, can recite in their sleep. This is also the answer that our CEO gave me when I asked him when he was interviewing me for the job on why he had joined Neste. And he said it was the purpose. So I felt this is a CEO that I can actually work with. So no company can make the transformation on their own. So it's really, really important that we understand what are the different stakeholders that we need to learn to work with. Who are the ones that we need in our ecosystems? How do we build the kind of trust that we can actually work together with the public sector, with the policymakers, with the NGOs, with the customers, with the suppliers? And we actually feel that companies have a crucial role in building these ecosystems, because we can also find a way of engaging with different types of stakeholders. I just wanted to highlight that, when talking about sustainability, people often understand it in very different ways. So a useful framework for sustainability, we believe, is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we've actually made a big study within Neste to really show where we can make the biggest impact. So all the 17 different goals are super important, but when looking at what we do and where we operate, these 6 are the most relevant for us. My absolute favorite one is SDG 17, so partnerships for the goals. I think it's so important that if we're trying to change the world, that we understand that we need to find the right partners to do that with. So why are we still on this journey? The world has actually changed a lot. I started by saying that, when we decided to start building these renewable diesel refineries, nobody was expecting that. But if you look at what the world talks about today, it's all about climate. It's all about sustainability. So there is much more consumer pressure, and there's much more companies that are finding this as a profitable growth path for them. So finding sustainable offering. Trying to solve a problem for somebody else is normally a good area to do business, and definitely more sustainable solutions are extremely well received by many different actors. Climate is actually also becoming a key investment factor. I joke nowadays that my best friend is our head of investor relations, because we talk with investors all the time. They all want to talk about climate. So this is something that has changed tremendously. And just a few examples, it's not only that, money is going more into sustainability or climate solutions, but also where money definitely is not going anymore. So big investors also already pulling out of companies that are not seen to be taking climate issues seriously. Also, when looking at what the world has been looking like the past year, many people thought that the pandemic will change it all. No, it hasn't. Climate is still on top of the agenda. If you look at carbon pricing, last year, 20 euros was the price for ETS. And then people were saying that it might be in 40 euros in 5 years' time. It's already above 40. So things really have started changing. And we've seen a lot of activities taken by different countries, different governments, on how do we make sure that we are aligned with the Paris Agreement targets. And this is where we also felt that we need to have a target that is aligned with the Paris Agreement. And this is why we've been looking at the science, we've been looking at what we need to do to make sure that we are pulling our weight. And this is why we have our 2 climate commitments. So one is to reach carbon neutral production by 2035. And if you're thinking about, we are still also in oil refining, this is a massive project that we have started working on. And then also growing our ability to help our customers reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by using our solutions. So we were at 10 million tons last year. So we're hoping to double that by 2030. So what we're doing, this is not something that the sustainability team is working on its own. So we have an actual strategic priority that are those 2 climate commitments that I just showed you. So this means that I'm reporting back to our executive committee on a monthly basis to show how we've made progress. This is something where we have been saying a lot that we also need to change the business environment so that it is making it feasible for these kinds of changes. We need to make big investments as well. And we actually needed to change our own investment criteria. So now when we take something to the investment committee, we need to show that impact on greenhouse gas emissions. So we also needed to look at why haven't these initiatives been moving forward before? Well, we needed to have a higher price internally for carbon so that helps some of those initiatives move forward. We put all these different ideas on a timeline so that we understand what can we do today and what do we need to start building on today so that we can scale them up by 2030, 2035. So also piloting some technologies that are not maybe mature enough or are not economically viable yet, but we need to start building on that so that we will be able to use them in a few years' time. And then, like I said before, nobody has all the wisdom in their own heads. So we need to also work together with other organizations who can build on the understanding that we already have. So we actually are working together with a lot of different universities, research institutes. We have about 25, I think, partnerships with different universities so that we have, the best knowledge available. Also looking at smaller companies who may have expertise in some of these topics. So we partner with them as well. We're looking at scaling up some of the solutions that are already out there, like looking at investing into wind power systems. We have some exciting ways of building new ecosystems. For example, with the city of Oakland, we're collecting the waste cooking oil from their restaurants, we're turning it into renewable diesel, then they were then using in their fleet. So the waste from the city becomes their fuel, and I think this is quite cool. And a similar example we've done with McDonald's in the Netherlands, where something that has been used to fry their fries is now fueling their fleet. And then as we also have the sustainable aviation fuel, we've also decided that we now use sustainable aviation fuel for our own corporate travel. So we needed to partner with Finnair so that, they are using that fuel when we are flying. Hopefully one day again. We made this commitment on the 12th of March last year, which was, by the way, the same day that we stopped flying. So it's been a bit of a funny year for that kind of a commitment. Just a few examples of the companies that we've been working with also in the Baltic countries. So this is definitely something that we are happy to work with in different regions. And also wanted to show that, this started very small. We had a couple of places in Finland where you could buy the renewable diesel. Now it's available in many, many other stations, 120 stations in Finland and in all the Baltics. Not many, hopefully growing, but still available. And I think this is actually something that I was so inspired by the Prime Minister as well as the Commission, both mentioning that we need big changes. And I think this is definitely what we need to think about. If we continue as we have done, then, we're heading towards breakdown. But what we need to be heading towards is breakthrough. And I was somehow thinking that if the Baltic countries have been able to build back better, seriously, you are the ones who know how to do it, how to change the economy. Let's not forget that innovative past that you have. So how do you take very little and turn that into everything that you need? And I think this is exactly a good building block for a circular economy, for a more green society. So this is maybe all I wanted to say. Slightly over time, apologies. I speak really, really fast, but I had really, really a lot to say. So I think this is something that we really need to all remember. We need to be both faster and bolder, and we definitely need to do all of these things together. So thank you.
Salla, amazing. Thank you very much for sharing this story. As I said, we cannot really cover all of the questions. We're under a bit of a time pressure here, but nevertheless, there's quite a lot of interest in the practicalities of renewable diesel. If you could cover that two questions on another platform here coming in. I think this concerns the practicalities, I suppose. Basically, how to what it requires to make it feasible from a business perspective to introduce an innovation like this and to make it work. So in this case about the renewable diesel, so when did it become profitable as a project, and what was the greatest challenge connected to that? Was the technological development part the bigger challenge, or actually breaking into the market and persuading people to actually buy that stuff? Was that the more challenging part? Or, as you said, I mean, so the society has already changed, and it is actually very, very open to accepting these kinds of new products, at least in Finland, at least in the Nordics. Don't know, not sure about the Baltics yet, but we're on our way maybe there. So how would you, sort of taking these questions together, a quick comment on that particular project?
Well, the innovation took some time, or rather taking it into use. So the patent was filed in 1996, but the production started in 2007. So maybe there was also already one obstacle, so the mindset shift. But then when the production started and then expanded very quickly until 2011, I mentioned, Porvoo, Rotterdam, Singapore, but really that became profitable in 2013. So it didn't take that long anymore at that point. Definitely the more difficult thing was, making people understand what it is, because this is a completely new product. So it's not the old biodiesel. This is a renewable diesel, completely different technology. Nobody was asking for it. So, making people interested, but also making sure that there is market access. Because sometimes when you don't know what the product is, it can be difficult to bring that to the market. So there were legislative issues and marketing issues, but then when you have something that's relevant and that people understood the value for their own businesses or their own activities, then I think this was the critical thing, understanding what the world needs and being able to, provide that in an easy manner.
Salla, my final question, and I have the feeling that I'll sort of address this to each and every participant. I'm trying to sort of step into a Latvian entrepreneur's skeptical shoes and sort of and say, okay, it's Neste. I mean, they probably have $1 zillion in their bank accounts, right? And they're more able to fund any innovation that they want to go for. Is it really something that I can do? Can I be a part of this future, or I should sort of resist that future as long as I can? So what would your take on that be?
I would go back maybe not so much to how much money Neste has in its pocket, and it wasn't always so. I mean, now it is a very profitable business because we are in this renewable business, but if we would be only in the oil refining business, the story would be completely different. But maybe going back to some of the figures I showed you on where the investors' money is going. I think this is a matter of being able to explain how the solution that you're providing is fitting in their picture. And there is a tremendous interest in these sustainable solutions. We just issued a green bond. It was really, really well received. I think that's a good indication on how much interest there is in this type of new, more sustainable business offering.
Right. So I think we'll finish with that. I think the sort of one of the takeaways from what you also said is that you don't have to have $1 zillion on dollars in your bank account. You can, if you have a good project, the investors might be lining up to implement that. So thank you.
If I can add
one
more thing, I think it's very good to also look at all the innovation programs, all these things that the EU is also offering. I think there are plenty of opportunities. You just need to know where to look. So finding the money shouldn't be the obstacle. It's, finding the right people to back you up is maybe more relevant.
On that note, Salla, thank you very much for finding the time to join us. An inspiring talk, as I'm sure all of the rest of the case studies are also going to be. And therefore, I want to say hi to Ingvild. Ingvild Berg is Executive Vice President of Orkla. Ingvild, are you there? I'm not sure we're hearing you, so is your microphone switched on?
Hello? Can you hear
yes. Yeah, it's all perfect now. So, Orkla's story on the sustainability and sustainable investments in your business of confectionery and snacks. Ingvild, many thanks for joining us. So it's the same thing. We're trying to fit our presentations into 10, maximum 11 minutes, and then a quick set of follow-up questions. I encourage the audience once again to send in those through Slido and prioritize the questions. So even if you're not asking questions, you might log on to Slido and vote for something, for a question that someone else has asked and that you want addressed to our speaker. Ingvild, 10 minutes, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Yes, hello. So my name is Ingvild Berg, and I'm really honored to be here today and talk about sustainability in Orkla and also green transition in Latvia. So I'm quite new into the role as CEO of the confectionery and snacks business area, but I've been with the business for 15 years. And over these 15 years, I've seen that the focus on sustainability has been growing every year in Orkla, and is now very much an integrated part of how we do business. For me, sustainability is both a business opportunity and also a responsibility, because with all the focus now we have from the consumers, from the customers, from our investors, we see a number of business opportunities arising, both for driving more revenues and also cutting costs. But then, independent of the business opportunities, it is also a responsibility, because we know that 25% of greenhouse gas emissions is coming from the food production value chain. And being a big food production company, we do have a responsibility to do something. And being big in the Nordics, like we are, what we do actually does make a difference. So that is also very important. So it's all the time about this balance between both the business part of it and the responsibility part of it. So just a few words on Orkla. We are a leading supplier of branded consumer goods. Our main markets is in the Nordics and Baltics, and we are also represented in some selected geographies in Central Europe and in India. So we operate in 22 countries, but our products are sold in more than 100 markets. And the core of our business is very much building strong local positions based on local consumer insight, local brands. But then at the same time, being this big company, it's also important for us to use that and drive flexibility and synergies across markets. So the heart of our business is our brands. We have a mission that we want to improve everyday life for the consumers with sustainable and enjoyable local brands. And we have more than 300 brands in our portfolio. One of them is Laima, which is one of the oldest ones in our portfolio and one of the most beloved Latvian brands. Sustainability in Orkla has been very much on the agenda for a long time. And already in 2005, we committed to UN's Global Compact. Being a strong local player, we believe that we can have a positive impact on the societies where we are present. And we want to take the lead in the transition to sustainable production and consumption. And by that, meaning that we want our products to be sustainable, we want them to be responsibly produced, we want to use sustainable raw materials, we want to have renewable packaging, we want to have a climate footprint that is as low as possible, and also working on the nutrition value of our products. And working on all these aspects and doing this transition from sustainable to sustainable production and consumption, we are working a lot and focusing a lot on the Sustainability Development Goal number 12. I heard Neste talking about 6 goals, so we are focusing on goal number 12, but also, of course, having a positive impact on several of the other goals as well. In our sustainability strategy that you also see here on the page, we are targeting these 5 areas where we work and where we have set clear targets. And these 5 pillars, they are about the nutritional value of our products. It is about food safety. It is about sustainable sourcing, climate footprint, environmental engagement, and not least also caring for people and society, and having this focus on building strong local engagement for sustainability. Our story in Latvia, that started back in 2004 when we acquired Spilva, and later we acquired a number of other beloved Latvian brands like Adashu, Laima, and Selga. We have today the production of these brands in 5 different facilities in Latvia, and we are very devoted to building a strong, sustainable business in Latvia and have a strong commitment to that. So in 2020, we built this new chocolate factory in Adaši, and we are currently now building a new factory with a focus on biscuit and wafer production. So I'll talk a bit more about this project, because this is a project that began in 2018, and I think it's one of the largest, maybe the largest construction project that we have ever done in Orkla's branded consumer goods area. And in this new plant, we will specialize in the production of biscuit and wafer, and we believe that this facility will be the biggest of its kind in the Baltics and Scandinavia. So we are creating this competence center here in Riga, and also closing down our facilities in Sweden and the current one in Riga. And then in this new factory, we are producing a number of these, our strong, long-standing brands, both from Norway, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, and so on. And we think around 75% of the product here will actually be exported to other companies. So it's very important that this facility will stand for the highest Scandinavian standard. It's a big facility, 30,000 ton production capacity. We will have 32,000 square meters, a number of product lines, and so on. And a huge investment for us as well, around 32 million euros only in the construction itself. And then also we will do significant investments both in new equipment, new production lines, and so on. So we believe that this is one of the biggest investments in the food sector in Latvia recently. And building this totally new, huge factory is also a huge opportunity for us for being a guiding star for sustainable innovation and production. And it's a unique opportunity to build a totally new factory. So doing this, we've set a very kind of visionary, sustainable vision for the project. We want to be a guiding star for sustainable production. And in this, we've made these 6 commitments, focusing on different parts of the project and later the operation of the new factory. And of these 6 commitments, we've chosen one that we are focusing the very most on, to contribute to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. And as I mentioned earlier, also, we have a huge responsibility because the food production industry is a big source for greenhouse gas emissions. So we have already made some really important decisions when it comes to this part of our vision. So one of them is that we have decided to go from gas ovens to electric ovens, and that will reduce our CO2 emissions with more than 20%. And to secure that it's based on renewable electricity, we document that through guarantees of origin. We will also work a lot on the energy consumption. We are building a totally new facility, so it will be a new building, it will be new machinery, and they will all be much more energy efficient. We are also investigating possibilities for energy recovery, where we use energy from the production process and can use them to both heat the facilities and also as energy source for other parts of the production. We are preparing for solar panels on the roofs. We are exploring possibilities also for using biogas. So a lot of work on the climate footprint, but we are also working on different other parts of sustainability. So for us, producing food, it's also a lot about the nutritional value of food. It's about, taking out sugar, taking out salt. We are replacing palm oil with other type of oils. It's about the packaging of the product, and it's also about what raw materials we use. And then to be able to succeed with this over time, it's also important to have very clear targets that we follow and track. So we are setting these ambitious targets, we are cascading them down to all the employees, and we will be constantly monitoring them over time to make sure that this is not just a kind of a short-term focus, but a very integrated long-term focus of the total operation. Yes, so coming to an end here, I would say that with this project, we are setting really high goals for what we want to achieve, and we want to be a driving force in making the food sector in Latvia more sustainable. And we know that high goals will trigger new behaviors. It will require a lot of focus and effort, and definitely high investments as well, but we believe that this is the right road ahead. So we have ambitious plans, and we are really looking forward to work together with the whole Latvian society and also the government towards more sustainable living. So thank you very much for listening.
Ingvild, thank you very much for the presentation. That is a tasty giant chocolate behind your back right there. Sort of makes me...
I am in the Lima meeting room here. We have a Lima meeting room at our office.
Makes me salivate just a little bit. I haven't had my lunch yet. Nevertheless, just a couple of questions. They are coming in over Slido, but also some of them have been submitted beforehand, and I'll sort of put them together, combine them into this. So the concern is, okay, you laid out for us the story about the new factory, about that project, and means of transportation, and all of these measures that are directed at sort of climate-friendly policies. So the question is there sort of additional also directions? You sort of mentioned that, but nevertheless, one of the listeners wants you to expand on the use of organic biological ingredients, on fair trade practices, on packaging, and also there's another aspect coming into this. What demands will you be putting on your suppliers and vendors when it becomes to this green business conduct? How do you actually enact it in practice? So I'm trying to combine those issues. If you could cover them in up to 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, well, it's a huge question, and also a lot of important aspects there as well. Just maybe starting with the last one, because it doesn't help what we are doing on our side. We also need to, of course, work together through the whole value chain. So for us, it's a lot about the supplier code of conduct that we use within all our contracts, and then focusing on all these aspects, both on human rights, labor rights, health, and also the environment part. And this is something that we follow closely up on all contracts and with all our suppliers. And then you are also asking about kind of the raw material, the packaging, and those are both areas where we have worked a lot. On the ingredient part, it differs what kind of risk you have for different materials. So we work a lot on mapping where are the high-risk raw materials, where we really need to have a focus. Cocoaing being one of them, and a certification. Now working closely with the Rainforest Line certification is a very important part of that. You mentioned packaging as well, and what is important there is to be able to find and use packaging that actually can be recycled and used again. So far it isn't possible to use recycled packaging or plastic for food, but still it can be recycled and used in other type of products. And then also, where do the plastic that we use come from? And it is also possible to develop that based on renewable sources. So it's a lot of job work, and you have to work on a number of different aspects, and that is also, I think, what our sustainability strategy in Orkla shows, that it is it's a big work on a number of areas going hand in hand, and very much a focus of the whole business.
Ingvild, it was a pleasure having you join us today. Thank you very much for joining us. All right. We're a bit behind our schedule, and that's my fault entirely. But nevertheless, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes with Mārtiņš and Adriana now, who are my friends and colleagues who are also following these conversations. So, Adriana, what's your way of summing up what we just heard? What is sort of your top three in terms of applicability and relevance to our local businesses, our environment here, our realities of life? Adriana, please.
Yeah. Well, I think what I heard here was rather coming from the questions, and it's a question on why. Why should we start doing about it? And when we think about the bank's approach, you know that banks have a special role in the sustainability story, in transitioning to the green economy, because of directing the capital. And there, the rationale is very much down to earth. Actually, sustainability is risk management. Sustainability is number of specific issues. If not taken care of, they can land in your balance sheet with a very financial impact. So the transition comes with the legislative, with market, with technology changes, and you just have to be prepared for that. And companies that have this answers to most of sustainability questions are less vulnerable, more stable, and therefore also more attractive in the eyes of the bank. And my main takeaway from these two stories was the time is now. The time is now to start exploring the upcoming changes, understanding how are they going to impact my business, how should I adjust my strategy? Because as you heard from Nesta's story, new solutions to become profitable takes time and investment. So it's not too early to start thinking about what is my path I should be taking in towards the green.
Adriana, thank you. Mārtiņš, your take?
Yes, thank you. I mean, these were extremely interesting case studies, not least because Nesta and Orkla are both large foreign investors into the Baltic economies. And of course, as we know from economic theory, with investment, you also have a lot of beneficial spillover effects. And one of these spillover effects is a bit of this, Scandinavian appreciation for sustainability. Now, my takeaway number one is that sustainability can be profitable. This is not just a good feel-good exercise, not just a marketing ploy, but this is actually good business. I mean, the customers, we have a new generation of customers coming into the market who are demanding more green, more sustainable. We have investors who are increasingly looking at what they are investing is and if that's green or not. So instead of this just being sort of a green smokescreen, we can see two very realistic case studies, two examples. I mean, in Nesta's example, we see a company which is born brown or brown black, right, to secure Finland's oil supply. And this company now gets 95% of its revenues from renewable, right? So the company has re-engineered its DNA. Here in the Baltics, we say, well, our companies are small, they cannot afford it. They see sustainability as an investment, not as a business case. Whereas, you can clearly see that can be profitable. And second takeaway that I take is that, when you think about sustainability in your business, you have to take a very close look, do a Green Deal audit, if you will, and develop a strategy with very clear commitments, right? I mean, in Orkla's case, we have, 15% less salt, 50% less food waste, very concrete deliverables, very concrete trajectory towards climate neutrality. This is not just about, me maybe making my warehouse a little bit less energy efficient. So, you have to take a holistic look at your business as a whole, even the core of what you do, and look at where the demand is. And demand is increasingly for sustainable, for local, for green, and you have to translate that into very concrete commitments. So these are my two very important takeaways from these two excellent case studies, which actually illuminate quite a lot. I mean, you see that these companies are really in sync with what also the European Commission tries to do with the European Green Deal. This is very good examples. Okay, these are large multinational companies. They in some ways have more responsibility for the climate, but every company has its fair share to do. And I think these were two very excellent examples, very close to home as large investors here in the three Baltic states.
Adrian Martins, stand by. We have additional case studies coming up. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Our next participant is Satu Kiiskinen, managing partner in Finland for Tieto Evry. And hello, are you there, Satu? Hello.
Yes, good afternoon. I am here.
Right. Your line seems to be a bit breaking off at some point, but we hope it's going to be fine. So please, once again, the rules are the same. About 10 minutes and then a quick follow-up. I would like to encourage once again our participants to log on to Slido. Quite a few questions are coming in. My apologies, I don't have the time to cover all of them. I might actually, if I don't get to them immediately, I might incorporate them into the discussion later, or we might find a way to how to get back to you if that question is specific to an institution or a case study. So please do continue using the Slido platform to connect with us. Satu, please, 10 minutes at your disposal, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
I hope that the line works well. Let me know if we are breaking up. So I'm like said, my managing partner for Finland at Tieto Evry. We are a company creating digital advantage to businesses and societies, and for us, we use technology to empower the development of several industries, and our clients range from manufacturing to healthcare and financial services, as well as public sector organizations. I have 24,000 colleagues across the world, and here in Latvia, we are over 1,000 employees. And as a newly integrated company, we have created a 3-year sustainability strategy that we are just in the process of launching. So let me set the scene a bit with this slide. We live in the world of radical transparency, and misconduct anywhere in the world automatically creates a global movement. And this we have seen with the Black Lives Matter just 1 year ago. And this is also the environment where we as corporate citizens operate. And there are high demands for sustainable operations as well as doing good. And it's coming from all of our stakeholders, meaning employees, customers, and investors alike. So this picture illustrates our sustainability strategy. And there was an extensive process behind in listening to the views of the key stakeholders and what they thought was essential to our type of business. So we interviewed some of the thought leaders on this area, and we also benchmarked with other companies on their ambitions. ICT industry and technology have a role as an enabler in fully fulfilling sustainability goals. And actually, I believe that our role is two-folded. So we need to run sustainable operations, also being part of our customers' value chain. And we also are in a position to provide solutions that enable our customers to reduce their carbon footprint. I have 3 examples at the end of my presentations. Hopefully I will get that far. The lower part of this picture describes our responsible operations, and these colorful linkages are linked to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And these illustrate the areas that are divided into ethical conduct, exciting place to work, as well as climate actions. And for each of these areas, we have a minimum of 1 concrete to achieve by 2023. And we'll take look at those highlights in just my next slide. And then this upper part of the circle is all about sustainable solutions. And then, of course, for us also business opportunities. And these are the categories where we engage with our customers and where sustainability is a key driver for the engagement. We talk about sort of impact analysis, quantifying the environmental, societal, and financial impacts of our services. Or we talk about using data or data platforms to help our customers in their sustainability and ambitions overall. So here we have the highlights on our ambitions related to our own operations. So the lower part of the circle on the previous page. The KPIs that we have defined here, or the highlights, can be divided into people and planet to be very straightforward. So first of all, we aim for equal representation of women and men in our workforce by 2030. This is important from the point of view of all stakeholders. We are in an industry where the war for talent is a huge challenge, and employees absolutely are sort of also supporting this. And in terms of innovation, of course, gender balanced environment is important for us. We're in a sort of it's an ambitious goal, and for us it means that we need to make sure that we identify all unconscious bias that is related to any HR process and provide equal opportunities for both men and for women. Then I would highlight fair and green supply chain. Supplier code of conduct for suppliers was mentioned already in Orkla use case presentation as well. We also expect our suppliers to have own climate related ambitions and CO2 reduction targets. And finally, we aim for 100% recycling of our own laptops and mobile devices, and also those of our the services that we provide for our customers. By using green energy on our offices and data centers, we are aiming to reduce 80% of our CO2 emissions in scope 1 and 2. And then we have also applied this sort of verification of these ambitions to follow up on how we are doing. So finally, I conclude my sort of session with this slide. And these are examples, some examples of the work that we do with our customers in order to reduce the environmental burden. I have to say I meet with customers, of course, on a weekly, almost daily basis, and discussions around sustainability come up in almost all of the meetings. If I start from the left with Systembolaget. With Systembolaget, we are automating and visualizing energy consumption used to run their IT operations. And this then, of course, allows also other ESG data sources to be integrated on the same platform. This is a challenge that several of our customers are sort of discussing about at the moment. Then the two municipalities or two city examples tackle the same topic from a bit different angle. So first of all, Trondheim has developed together with us an app that is targeted to the citizens. So Trondheim citizens can follow and monitor their climate actions on this app. You could relate this app to if any one of us have an app on a mobile device for a retailer where you can follow up your how environmentally friendly your grocery basket is, for example. This data platform collects data from several different sources and enables a citizen to kind of like follow how one is doing. Then finally, a case of City of Vaasa. This is also an example of an ecosystem where several different players and companies came together and we helped City of Vaasa to reach or support them in their ambitious goal to become carbon neutral. And again, this is based on data and a data platform that collects data from different sources and then brings also transparency to the citizens of Vaasa on city's decision making. How can the city make the most impactful and cost efficient climate actions to become carbon neutral? So with these examples, thanks again for inviting, and to conclude, we at Tietoevry are hugely committed to do our part of well-being and of the citizens and sustainable societies, and great to be part of this session where it feels like a lot of cases are feeling the same. Thanks.
Satu, thank you very much. Couple of quick questions. Our audience is interested, but we need to cover this in a sort of SMS type of a conversation. 140 signs. How does it actually work to make a data center, right? If it's a huge building with processors and hard drives, whatever that is, how do you actually make it sort of carbon neutral and friendly? How does it actually happen?
Yeah, good question. I'll be really sharp. So first of all, in the data center, we are committed to use renewable and carbon-free energy in all of our data centers. And our data centers are located in the Nordic countries, so this is also fully possible for us. And second of all, we also look for possibilities to circulate the excess heat to nearby sort of district heating network. This is what we do, for example, in Espoo, metropolitan area of Finland. And then lastly, of course, we are all the time looking for consolidation or harmonization and implementing kind of latest technologies that by default are also more energy efficient. So I would summarize in these points.
Interesting. Thank you very much. And another quick question. I think there's a considerable interest in that application or software, whatever it is you're offering to the to municipalities to monitor their carbon footprint. Does that take a very significant investment from the point of from the side of the municipality? Is it possibly something that even smaller municipalities can afford? How sort of expensive and complex that solution is?
Maybe I take a different angle. So how expensive is it to do decisions without really understanding the impact and the most cost-efficient way of doing that decision? So I think implementing these type of applications from whichever angle they are, either from citizens or the city decision making, is quite a cost-efficient way of doing it. We are very eager to repeat these experiences, of course, in other municipalities and cities as well.
Right. That's also a question of mindset. How do you actually calculate those expenses? Right. Well, thank you very much, Satu. It was amazing to hear this. Actually gave me quite a lot of ideas myself. Thank you very much for this. I'll involve Adrian and Martins, who were listening to this with us as well. I'll begin with Martins now. Once again, we're in the same framework of the main takeaways. Now, I think the segment that we just covered is the digitalization part of that transformation, a very significant, obviously, part of that transformation. So, any examples that come to mind where in Latvia something of this sort sort of works out, or maybe we're also in some segment, in some aspect, maybe leading the conversation, or maybe not. So your take on this?
A very interesting case study. Of course, this green transition and the digital transitions are just two sides of the same coin, right? I mean, we're trying to make the quality of life better for the citizen, and we're re-engineering the business processes. And companies like Tieto, of course, have an extremely important role to play in this digital transition, but also in the green transition. And I want to harp back on the point where Satu finished, is on this importance of data. And I think for the climate transition, be it at the firm level or the industry level or the government level, it's very important to have data at your disposal to be able to make good decisions. I mean, we call it evidence-based decision-making, right? That's what we try to improve, both in the corporate and the sort of policy-making level. And I think this is the role that this digital industry can play, is helping us to harness the power of data. And if we have the power of data, we can also make better decisions on this green transition. But I also want to highlight another point that Satu made, that is not, the sustainability is not just about the planet, okay? It's not just about the renewables and efficiency. Sustainability is also about the people, right? So again, two sides of the same coin. We also want to make the workplace sustainable, equal, overcome the sort of the vestiges of history. But we also do this, sustainability story to improve people's quality of lives. And this is important to remember. What is the ultimate goal? Yes, it's good for business. Yes, there is demand for that. But why do we ultimately do that? And I think in some ways, I've seen some very encouraging stories from some municipalities in Latvia, which are making inroads in better use of data, including for doing their energy transitions. In the city of Jelgava, I think they've done some interesting modeling. I think there was another question on Slido. Has there been any modeling done, to sort of show by data that in fact this is not just a large investment, that ultimately, there's the return on the investment. And I think we have some very, very interesting examples in some municipalities, even in this country. But of course, having a handy app, I've seen in Trondheim and some other examples in Norway where you really can crunch data at your fingertips and you know exactly where your energy is coming from and where your energy is going. And so you can make those decisions, sitting as a local council or in a municipality, to sort of where to reduce and where to put the investment and then what returns it will bring. So very interesting presentation again on the use of data, but also internally how Tieto, through its own example, is showing, what sustainability is, this people and the planet. And also what was interesting in conjunction with the other stories is that, this framework of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is at the outset. This is what sort of drives strategy. Here in Europe, we more often than not make a reference to European Green Deal, but even that is based on these big principles. So we have a common language across the Baltics, and across Europe. We have a common philosophy, and I think this is importantly showed by Tieto's example as well.
Adrian.
Well, I can add two more things to what Martin's just said. This practical evidence and application. Just a few weeks ago, in the beginning of the March, we launched a Swedbank Co-Creation Accelerator. And actually, Orkla is one of the partners in this accelerator. And co-creation means that big industry leaders are solving sustainability problems together with the startups. And whatever is the problem, be it sustainability assessment, be it electric vehicle charging, be it home energy efficiency, be it food waste tracking, all of these solutions involve digital component. So digital component usually is the one that removes the friction and encourages use of new sustainable solutions and generates these new sustainable habits in society. And the other thing is what we heard in Tieto case, but also what we heard in Orkla's case, is switching to renewable energy. And actually, increasing renewable energy use is considered the most crucial strategy for companies with the largest positive effect on the climate change mitigation. And also solutions are available. Solutions, both financial solutions and technical solutions, so that actually you can get the business case by switching to renewable energy and energy that you produce for your own use. So that's an immediate first step any company can take.
Adrian, thank you very much. Please, friends, stand by. We've got two more case studies coming up. And I already know what our biggest challenge today is, what my biggest challenge as a moderator is today, that our schedule is so packed and these conversations are becoming gradually more and more interesting rather than less. So to condense this into the time allocated for us is going to be a challenge going ahead. That's why, with no further ado, I'll introduce Roman Piankovski. Roman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. What about yourselves?
Roman is head of innovation at Dynex. Please, 10 minutes, the floor is yours, then a quick follow-up question on my part. Roman, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you for having me here, and this is fantastic opportunity. And it was, first of all, I'll try to be short to help you with improving the timeline. And, it was quite interesting for me to hear, and it's good that I'm happy that I joined from the start, because it's fantastic to see that, first of all, this is not something that we are talking about a buzzword, that maybe something will happen or should happen tomorrow. It's fantastic for us to see that all these cases shows that this is an existing trend. And I agree to. It's also fantastic to hear that already all these companies are doing these activities, and so many common trends. We are talking actually about the same things, and this is very encouraging, very exciting. And speaking about ourselves, so shortly on who we are, and in Dynex, basically, we are trying to make the engine operations of big, very heavy vehicles, like you see on on the screen, clean from the emissions, bringing it to near zero level. Trucks, buses, agricultural machines. And basically, if I try to put it from the perspective of world famous Elon Musk today, that we are all participating in an experiment of how much emissions can our atmosphere handle, and how we embrace it in Dienix is you need to make a meaning, value as a prime goal, not money. Money will come along if you make the meaning first. We meet companies or individuals also in ecological industries, interestingly, who exist to make money first with no sustainable green on the agenda. And sustainable energy economy cannot be achieved if especially tech companies, and not only tech companies and its stakeholders, pursue making of money as their only goal. And we see that without awareness of stakeholders, commitment of governments, top management, reaching that clean green goal will take considerably longer time. And as Musk put it, nobody knows how much atmosphere can handle. And then exactly desire of creating this meaning, this value, is the first step to innovations. And on this slide, basically it depicts that different regions globally are aiming basically at the same direction, but they are running at different speeds. And the key point here is that this sustainable development cannot go in small percentages. You have to, so to say, jump levels. You have to jump curves. You have to set bigger targets, legislation-wise, and also as industry ambitions. And when you set those very ambitious targets in order to really speed up, then innovation will put technology each next to the needed or to the posed challenge. And technology can evolve. It can be believed because many of the solutions what today we perceive as normal did not exist even decades ago. And looking at a couple of trends, then I'll have to mention a couple that last 25 years, if looking at the bottom right corner, the small dark orange line have been representing a small share of renewables in a global energy consumption, and many of the competent industry representatives looking not at Europe but globally said, of course, this will grow. And most probably representing to 30, maybe even above % of a global industry energy coming over the next 25, 30 years, coming from the renewables. Trend number 2 is that high awareness of regions with high awareness generate improvement, but globally the growth of consumption still puts a challenge to the dynamics, to the way we would like to see it. Trend number 3 is that solutions like electric cars can make sense only when produced with ecologically recyclable materials, eco materials, and actually being powered on the renewable fuel. And fourth trend is near zero emission systems, and hybrids can actually in the short term and mid-term deliver what electrification promises to deliver in the in the long term. We have the ambition to basically create nearly zero emissions from the engines. We have a number of technologies put forward to address each individual challenge. And the point what I want to highlight here is that this is also about stereotypes, yeah, that with Danish origin, we have been for a long time a part of the story where an international company, although small, moves out of countries like Denmark and into Latvia for cheaper production. But this is history now, and we have created a case where we actually launched innovations and R&D out of Latvia, starting with something small and then surprisingly finding out that this is actually becoming something bigger. Launching the innovations function in our Latvian facility, it has immediately, interestingly, created the snowball effect. It echoed interestingly, and this is. With this, I want to highlight and mark also on what you were saying, that for this is possible only, or many fears of the local companies, that this is possible only for huge companies. This is possible only if you have zillions of dollars in your pockets. And with our example, I want to object this that you don't. This is first of all not the fact, and secondly, you don't need to start with something big. It's enough with starting something small, be it from a individual employee point of view, smaller company, bigger company, authorities, banks, everybody can commit to this journey. So by launching it, we had started cooperation with or brought this awareness to 170 suppliers that we work with, universities, academic societies, European funding, and also launched dialogue with the ministries. Interestingly enough, as I said, we started with an ambition to and started fighting this prejudice with a lot of people saying, no, you cannot do it out of Latvia, it's impossible, there are too many obstacles into this, but we launched anyhow. And interestingly, we expected to start something, to do something small, but we already today started cooperating with other industries, with aviation industry on producing a coating together, with construction representative companies for developing a new sustainable recyclable solution for the components that we use. And we actually never even expected it from the start. So my timing is done now. I stop, and once again I repeat that our example shows clearly that we have just started doing it. Innovation and does not rest in the headquarters or somewhere. It can start anywhere, and it starts with people who want to do something different, who want to create the meaning.
Roman, thank you very much. Just a very quick follow-up. Interesting note on your cooperation experience with Latvian academic institutions and suppliers, and within the framework of EU funding programs and all the rest of it. And I'm glad to hear that you have a positive experience in that regard. If you had a business colleague from another company, be it an international company or a local company, whatever that might be, what would you say to them? They say, okay, if you could share a bit of your experience, what's the key to success to make that work? What would you identify as the keys to success to to get that process moving? Some of the things you said start with something small, not necessarily big, perhaps finding the new personnel. What would you add to that mixture? What made your cooperation in terms of facilitating innovation and bringing projects forward? What is that key to success?
Well, that's a broad question, but if I should try to put it in a couple of words, well, first of all, it's people, and once again, I was excited to hear the same from other speakers, from other participants. You need to find people who think in the same way, and those who don't, you need to bring that awareness, and I think events like that definitely support this. Yeah, so you have to build a team from those who think alike, who have the same ambition, and start promoting to, let's say, disbelievers or those who challenge that, showing that light in the tunnel. On the cooperation with universities, I think this is definitely a must and a trend to take, because we are a small company compared to companies like Neste. Yeah? So we are an example where we don't have so many opportunities available immediately, but we are on a journey to reduce the emissions relatively fast, and cooperating with universities have shown us that we can, by working with them, we reduce the number of mistakes in the innovations. Yeah, because innovation is about making mistakes. It's about learning from them in the purpose to achieve a great, to evolve your product, to evolve your technology. Yeah? And you will make trial and errors on the way. This is normal. And our cooperation with universities who are looking into same, let's say, certain properties of materials, it will take us considerably longer time to get the results, and by working with them, we have been cutting this lead time dramatically. So it has been a very positive experience, and I also have to say that this is also a wrong perception that education or the scientific side of it in Latvia is not developing. This is not definitely not true, and we can see how many individuals from the academic society are coming out that they actually want to do something. And I think this is also one of the success factors is for regulators to continuously build this link between academic society and the businesses, because we are good in application. They are good in their field, and together we can combine this common good.
Roman, great. Thank you for taking the time. I think what sort of features throughout many of these conversations, not least with the conversation we just had right now, is the necessity to for the change of mindset, and that's part of the key of success. But as we also observed, I think that is already underway, as we hear from many of our participants today. Our final case study is from Ikea. Pēteris Grīnbergs is joining us, and Pēteris, thank you very much for, you were supposed to start 20 minutes ago, but it is what it is, and thank you for nevertheless waiting to participate and to be with us at this conference. Pēteris is market manager at Ikea Latvia, and his title is, if I'm not mistaken, People and Planet and a Positive Ikea Case. 10 minutes, Pēteris, over to you.
Hi, Eddies, and greetings to all the rest. It was absolutely fine to wait 20 minutes because the topic's very interesting. As actually sustainability is the topic that each of us is facing at different times of our lives. For me, it is mostly when I look at my kids and think, is this the world I would like them to enjoy further on? As we regularly, let's say on our togetherness family picnics, show the younger members of the family how to treat the world by, let's say, cleaning out the area where we're having fun at the moment, But for IKEA, the starting point is normally our vision. IKEA is a global, values-driven company with the mission to create a better everyday life for the many people. And you will agree that a more beautiful life starts at our homes. So our business idea is to offer a wide range of well-designed and functional home furnishing products at prices so low that as many people as possible will be able to afford them. 3 Roads Forward is the name of the long-term direction for us, for IKEA. Affordability is to make IKEA affordable for the people who cannot afford IKEA today. Accessibility is to reach and interact with many more of the many people at places where they are. And sustainability is to create a positive impact to planet, society, and people. For us, it is a strategic way forward, and sustainability is an integral part of it. This is how we ensure that every product meets the requirement. It is democratic design principles when we speak about our products. Every product needs to meet 5 dimensions. And in the picture, you see sustainability, which is one of amongst them. However, if the product does not meet any of the criteria, you will not see it in IKEA shelves, Eddie. Even more, we're working on an ambitious goal, and I've heard this 2030 a couple of times today. So by 2030, we will inspire and enable people to make healthier and more sustainable choices. So sustainability should not be a luxury for just a few. We will make healthy and sustainable living as a desirable choice that is affordable and accessible for as many people as possible. Our commitment is defined in the IKEA People and Planet Positive strategy, and it is for the whole IKEA chain. Our sustainability ambitions and commitments are in line with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The 3 focus areas of IKEA sustainability, healthy and sustainable living, is a movement to inspire and enable more than 1 billion people to more sustainable life at home. Circular and climate positive is transforming the IKEA business towards a more positive way of working. Fair and equal is to ensure the diversity and being more inclusive, providing meaningful work and living wage. The same commitments are applying to Latvia. We want every visitor to be inspired and to live in a more sustainable way. I think Nesta mentioned already that the interest is there, even during the COVID time, the climate change and other related questions did not lose its relevancy in people's minds. So global research reveals that easy use and affordability are the main barriers for sustainable choices. So the easier consumers believe something is, the more interested they are in a change. Customers are unlikely to change something if they think it's too difficult or too complicated to implement. So therefore, we need to ensure that the services and products are accessible and information is clear and straightforward. Secondly, the price. It is still a top purchase consideration for consumers. Defining a limit on how much one is willing to pay for a more sustainable solutions. So companies should ensure that the customers have the access to products and services and that they are available for a variety of budgets. We have a unique opportunity throughout our business to lead the way by being a good example for a positive change in society. Being a leader means looking critically at all the aspects for the business, but also engaging in the debate and enabling customers, as well as co-workers and also our partners to take actions and actually contribute. For us, it is also about balancing economic growth and positive social impact. We are committed that transforming the IKEA business and our way of working throughout the value chain. As a business that is reliant on natural resources and people, as mentioned earlier, this will also mean that we will secure the future of IKEA business, value chain, and the lives of many more people. Becoming a circular business is a great opportunity, but you will agree it's a big challenge at the same time. Here are a few of our current actions. Developing new ways of customers to get and to pass on their products. Designing 100% circular products by 2030. Making every product from the very beginning to be repaired, to be reused, to be resold, and eventually it could be recycled. It's about seeing IKEA products as a raw materials for the future and eliminating the waste across the entire value chain. And taking the lead and joining forces with others. Here are a few accessible and affordable and at the same time sustainable range of examples. In the first picture above, you see Kungsbacka, our beautiful kitchen fronts, made from actually recycled PET bottles and the recycled wood. On a picture below, it is more like phasing out single plastic straws, providing alternatives instead. It is more plant-based food. Last year, invention plant bowls and veggie hot dogs and more. And this is the year when we will stop selling non-rechargeable alkaline batteries. Here are a few examples from what we do in Riga in Latvia. So we use the solar panel energy for water heating. It is irrigation system. So we're collecting rainwater to feed the plants around our store. Not many know that under our parking, there is a big pump station. We have only LED lights used across the store and as well lithium-powered logistic equipment. Free of charge should you drive electric car. So it will be free of charge car charging stations for our visitors and customers. And it is a co-worker sustainability education trainings. We are inspiring and enabling people to make healthier and more sustainable choices, for instance, by a buyback pilot project where people could sell their IKEA goods back to IKEA, or IKEA Kids Sustainability Camp. There is still an ongoing sustainability communication, both in-store and externally. Coming to an end, IKEA is committed to grow the business in an even more inclusive way. For example, IKEA Baltics has actively pursued the goal of ensuring high competence levels whilst seeking the gender equality. As a result, 60% of managerial positions are held by women and 40% by men. The IKEA retail company in Baltics has announced its corporate social responsibility program until 2023, with the goal to contribute again to a better everyday life for the many, becoming the voice against the violence at home, and one of the most pressing issues at homes in Baltics. By developing an even stronger and better meeting with IKEA for today's and tomorrow's demands from customers and consumers, we will create a new and better conditions for future growth and expansion. Now, we have done a lot, but as Ingvar Kamprad has said, most things remain to be done for the glorious future. Thank you.
Petters, thank you very much. More things need to be remain to be done. That's right. A very quick follow because we're out of time. That agenda you just laid out for us. This is just also something. Well, we usually think of IKEA, for example, and other businesses like that, just as customers, right? But you have a large supplier chain of your cooperation partners as well, right? And I think quite a lot of businesses here as well, whatever they're supplying to you, either it be furniture or whatever services that might be. You are also, as I understand, relatively strict in applying these standards, or not yet, or is that something that remains to be done? Well, how does that work out? A minute, not more on that, please.
Yeah. Edis, it goes without saying that IKEA works with hundreds of suppliers, and there is, even more subcontractors around the world. However, I have heard this today as well, but in IKEA we have our code of ethics as well, as we call it iWay, and that ensures that our partners comply with the very same, so to say, environmental and social responsibility as we do. So yes, we are looking after that.
All right. Okay, Petters, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Adrian, Martin, are you still there? I hope you are. I'm enjoying my day today. Are you as well, I hope. But let's bear in mind, we're out of time. Quick reflections. I'll begin by Adrian. Quick reflections on what we heard from the final two case studies, please.
Two things here. One about the innovation. Actually, innovation plays a crucial role in sustainability story. Because if you think back, actually innovation is the cause of climate crisis. It all started with humans figuring out the way how to use fossil for fuels, with the invention of a traditional car, with the invention of mass production. That's where we step from this path to the climate crisis. But actually innovation is going to be the cure. When it comes to sustainability, both like groundbreaking innovation has to happen because we have to invent really new ways to do things, and also incremental innovation, which makes these new progressive solutions affordable, like solar panels, and still we are missing part of the way how to accrue and use energy, and that's where innovation is needed. So innovation is huge. And then I think the other thing that we heard is a reference to sustainable manufacturing, which basically means four things, which is manufacturing in a way that it creates minimal waste, it's minimal resource consumption, it's usage of byproducts, it's manufacturing products that last for the long-term use, well, actually 5 things, and safe products, safe manufacturing environment, safe the impact to society. And we will hear a lot about the circular economy also in the taxonomy, which is going to be the next topic.
Sure. Yeah, in a moment. Martins?
Very quick indeed. 2 case studies in sectors which are key to the European Green Deal: transport sector and manufacturing, production, also somewhat housing sector. Now, I think the first presentation debunked 2 myths that we have here in this country, that R&D doesn't happen in Latvia and R&D doesn't happen in small companies. I think Roman's presentation was quite illuminating in showing that that innovation can and does happen in this country, that it has great universities. If you partner up, use the EU money wisely, you know, have good projects, innovation can happen. And the other one is that innovation doesn't happen in small companies. I mean, we have this body of theory which says that, you know, only the big companies are the drivers of innovation. And I think Roman's story was just a good case in point, showing that in fact innovation can and does happen also in small companies if you have the right people in the right places, notably if you have the right director for innovation, as Romans is. And I think Ikea example is a great example of the circularity. I mean, some of these you know, seemingly small things, like, well, which are not really small things, you know, this irrigation system, solar panels, you know, this buyback pilot project also, which shows that sometimes you don't scale up immediately. You try some things, try what works, and then you scale it up. You know, you try with the pilot projects. Sometimes maybe a company is a bit fearful at the company level that it starts this grandiose scheme, and what if it doesn't work? We have invested so much in that, and what now? So we test small, we demo, and then we scale up. I think this is a great example. But this whole concept of circularity, we used to think about Ikea as buying, you know, cheap furniture, putting it all together, and afterwards it's done. You know, we just, you know, throw it, right? So this concept of introducing the circular economy, you know, both in the production and the use of this furniture, I think a very important message, a very important take-home lesson from this story.
Martins, thank you. Just a quick referral back to Adriana. You began already, you mentioned the concept, and that is going to be the topic of the closing panelist for today, is the green taxonomy. Do I understand correctly that, well, these things about sustainability, it's not just a matter of ethical choice, it is also increasingly a matter of complex legislative framework that will increasingly incentivize sustainable business practices and disincentivize, or to put it simply, punish non-sustainable business practices. Is that what the green taxonomy is all about?
Well, the problem with sustainability is that it's not really straightforward. And it's really difficult to understand which economic activities really give a benefit to the green economy and which less. So this taxonomy is going to be a new Bible for financial institutions, since it lists these economic activities and under which condition these economic activities become contributing to the environment.
Right.
Climate mitigation and other.
Thank you very much. And I now introduced Katarina Vertiainen. She is Senior Environmental Analyst at the Nordic Investment Bank. Katarina, I hope you can hear us and we can hear you. Katarina, you there?
Hello, are you able to hear me?
All right, we're good. That's fine. So, Katarina will expand this conversation about green taxonomy and what implication will this have on the funding of businesses, attracting financing, and the business environment in general. I need to warn you, Katarina, you're the last speaker and we're out of time. So any minute that you can save us would be greatly appreciated. But at the same time, this is an important topic, an important conversation. So you know, whatever it takes, that's there for you. Katarina, please, the floor is yours, 10 minutes.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and greetings from Helsinki. Nice to be online with you, and I tried to be short and sweet as it was requested. Just a few words in the beginning about NIB, and then I continue on taxonomy, because that's the main topic of my presentation. So NIB is the international finance institution of the 8 Nordic-Baltic countries. We are a bit selective in our financing, so we finance annually about 60 to 70 projects, and we agree loans of some 3 to 4 billion euros annually. We provide sustainable and long-term financing to our customers, both from the private and public sectors. So our vision is prosperous and sustainable Nordic-Baltic region. We have a dual mandate. This mandate is setting the scene. What are we able to finance? So we are looking for productivity gains and environmental benefits. So ultimately, we look for sustainable growth. We are always, in each of the loan cases, we are asking our clients, how is this investment benefiting the economy and society? At the same time, also, we want to dwell into how is it benefiting the environment? So in order to do that, we have developed our own framework, so our own taxonomy, with key drivers to be able to rate each investment against these 2 mandates. Obviously, when we are talking about the green investments, we are looking at the projects that are rated with the environmental rating of the 2 notches up there, excellent and good. And why are we today, why are we today talking about sustainable finance and EU's Green Deal? It's the obvious reason that there is no time to waste. And now comes my Greta Thunberg message to you. With the current pace of utilizing renewable and non-renewable resources, by 2050, we would need almost 3 planets to sustain our ways of living. We need to rethink the ways we produce, consume, and exchange, so that we can all live within the boundaries of our planet. So to tackle some of these challenges, EU has set ambitious targets for 2030, we have heard that, and there is also an aim to go to net zero emissions by 2050. Many of NIB member countries have also set their own targets, naming that Finland is aiming for carbon neutrality in 35 and Sweden 45. I strongly believe that the Nordic and Baltic countries, industries and companies can be in the forefront in the green transition. In NIB's member countries, energy transition is already moving onwards, and the shift to low carbon would be very much needed in the cases of transport, buildings, and industry. NIB is supporting this journey in the Nordic and Baltic countries and has been involved with the green financing in this region already for 45 years and is willing to continue on this. Now, what I want to say in the picture in the right bottom corner, it's representing to you the fact that the banks are stepping up their efforts. You see in the picture that there has been already many sustainable finance instruments in the market. For years, there has been already green loans and green bonds. You heard already in the Neste's presentation that they have been issuing a green bond, which was kind of creating a lot of interest to the market. But there are also other financial products entering the market, such as sustainability-linked loans, sustainability-linked bonds, and social bonds. The other side of the coin, what I want to here also say to you, that banks are stepping up their game in another way as well, that they are trying to also clearly rule out some type of the activities which are contradicting to the Paris alignment, such as investments linked with fossil fuels. example to coal and oil. NIP, for instance, hasn't been financing for over 10 years already new investments to coal assets. Now I step into the EU taxonomy. You already heard a little bit that this is a new legislation which is coming. So it's a harmonized criteria to define if an economic activity is environmentally sustainable or not. It will create a common language to be used. In the previous slide, you saw that there has been already a growing market of the green loans and green bonds, but there is not really a common definition. What is green? What does it mean to kind of do an economic activity? When is it sustainable or green? So this EU taxonomy tries to kind of clarify the rules, what are considered green. It will be transparent for everybody to understand, and it will also enable a combat against greenwashing. The development of this taxonomy has been in the hands of the financial market players, industry groups, NGOs, and researchers. And one very important element to be aware of, that it's based on science, allowing the transition to achieve EU's net zero target for 2050. So where are we now, and how does this EU taxonomy work? I have a picture there on my slide. So there is now 2 different taxonomies available. They are still in the draft form. They are for the climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation. In 1 month's time, there will be a new, the finalized taxonomies released and published by the EU Commission. But in this year's time, the EU Commission is also planning to finalize the taxonomies for these 4 other objectives seen on the picture. So water and marine resources, circular economy, pollution prevention, and healthy ecosystem. So I would advise you to keep an eye on very much on this development. So a few words still about the taxonomy. So it will contain, or it contains, these 2 taxonomies contains approximately 70 economic activities from various sectors such as energy, buildings, industry, forestry, and transport. They are the ones which are the most significantly contributing to the objectives of climate change mitigation and adaptation. There are technical screening criteria, so thresholds. If you go into the documentation, you look for a certain sector, and then you see what would be the technical screening criteria or threshold you need to be passing. So they are most often to the product level or the intensity of carbon emissions, what you would be producing. The other concept to grasp is the do no significant harm. So the taxonomy is also requiring that when you are eligible for this green, to have a label of green, you shouldn't be doing any significant harm to the other 4 objectives. For instance, that you wouldn't produce huge amounts of waste, or you wouldn't pollute the water, or wouldn't contribute negatively to the ecosystem surrounding you. Lastly, there is also a requirement that you need to comply with minimal social safeguards, so with UN and OECD guidelines. So this is a package that I very much encourage you to start dwelling on. So then, last words about the taxonomy now. So NIP as an institution has been following up the development of the taxonomy for many years already. This is really a tool what we will start to align our internal documentation and tools against. It will be also a reference point for our green bonds. I must say also to you that the investment will not be limited only to the green or taxonomy eligible activities, because there is only 70 now sectors sectors kind of covered, our economic activities covered. But of course, if you want to kind of finance green investments, then this is the list to look for. So also for you, as if you are a company owner or dealing with your kind of business development, I would say very much to you that this is an opportunity to demonstrate your performance, can assist your company to plan transition, and this will require also reporting requirements. My last words, my time is running out. So my last word is for you is that the green is the new black. Many studies indicate that sustainable companies are more profitable. So start setting up your ambitious sustainability targets already today. Thank you.
Katarina, that was great. Thank you. A quick question for you. An audience member is interested. When do you expect business world will start to feel the pressure from the banks, like real pressure from the banks to go green if you want to have any business with that bank or any investment or any credit line or whatever? What is your impression on that regard from the inside of the industry? Very quickly.
Well, I guess we heard already from the previous presentation that in Neste's case, this is the hot topic that all the investors all are asking about the climate and what are their approach to that. So I would say that there is already a pressure there. So really that start planning your disclosures and having your targets. So the time is now.
Katarina, great. Thank you very much for joining us. Adriana Martins, we're really out of time. So very quickly, Adriana, I'll begin with you. We have to find a genius way of how to wrap this up. What's your, not putting any pressure on you, but this was a very interesting day. What's your closure point for today of what you heard?
Well, I would say that we have started, but the most of the job is still to be done. And also, when it comes to the bank, I can agree with my Nordic colleague that it is already happening. It's just that these sustainability conversations will become more sophisticated. More refined. Today we are at the concept levels, and we shall move into the levels of metrics. And at the end of the day, I think what resonates very good with the business mind, it's that it's about risk management of your company. How ready are you for the changes, legislative changes, technology changes, market changes, and on how prepared are you? It depends. Will the financing will be easily available to you, and at what price? So that's from the bank perspective. And even though taxonomy is like future document, but if we look into the cases we just heard, if you scroll down, you can recognize very many cases. You could find them in taxonomy, like this biofuel, data for climate change mitigation, energy efficiency for data centers, vehicle efficiency, circular economy. So it's not that the future is there. We are already started.
Yes, and if the taxonomy, as you said, the new Bible is ready at some point, it will also be the point at which it will be increasingly difficult to just do the talk. and not, walk the walk, right, in this direction, because we've experienced, I think, in the last period of time that as Martin said, sometimes it is used by companies as a marketing ploy, right, to present themselves as green and sustainable, the rest of it, and maybe at some instances, in some points, it's more of a talk than walking the walk. Martin, your closing remarks.
Yes, maybe I close with an analogy. This past summer, I took up a new activity. I was always kind of intrigued by what is in this wakeboarding, and then I finally got myself a board. Jumped in the water and try to get ahead. And as always, as we do something new, you're all tense and you try to resist the water and somehow you're all tense. And so, I wasn't succeeding, but then after 3 or 4 or 5 times, I finally got it. You don't need to resist, you just ride the wave, right? And then, once you get the feel out of it, you know what you're doing. I mean, from all the presentations today, starting from the Prime Minister to Mr. Popens, all the great case studies from the businesses, we can see that this green wave is rolling. We have a great change happening in the business. And of course, there's different strategies that the businesses can take. I know in Latvia, there is sort of this skeptical side, which says, look, let's try to resist this green wave until, maybe it passes, maybe the wave rides over, this is just fashion and vogue and ultimately, let's just kind of try to hide from it, okay? And then there is another strategy which says, okay, well, not in my backyard. The large farmers are saying, look, agriculture is something that we've, always done, and this greening, is let me be. But you can see that from Copenhagen to Helsinki, from Stockholm to Riga, from Daugavpils to Shanghai to New York, you see the green wave riding. And from my personal experience, from my wakeboarding, I can suggest to all the businesses in Latvia, it's better to take your board and try to practice, these 10,000 hours, which they say, it makes it perfect. And try to ride this wave. Try to see if there is a technological innovation. Try to see if you can develop a strategy for your business with certain milestones and targets. See what you can do to master this green wave rather than try to resist or hide from it, because it will catch up with you sooner or later. And there is a lot of help out there. There is the taxonomy for the legal certainty that the Prime Minister was arguing for. There's lots of money from the commercial banks, from the Nordic Investment Bank for this. And the customers are demanding this and investors are demanding this. So, it's better not to fight the wave, but to ride it. And that's where I close today's discussion.
Martin, Adrian, it was a pleasure to work with you today. Thank you very much. And thanks to the Nordic community here for putting this together, the conference today. We are in the midst of a pandemic, of course, but maybe the moment was therefore even more fitting for a conversation like this. The saying, in every crisis there's an opportunity, never grows old, and neither it does grow old in this case. And the time is now to think very hard where you and your organization is on this path towards sustainable business practices. So, on behalf of the organizers and myself, a very special thanks to the participants and to the audience. We hope this did provide food for thought, but maybe a bit of inspiration as well. With that, bye-bye now. Thank you very much for being here today and joining us.